Ragtime was the most popular type of music in America in the early 1900s. While its popularity faded through the years, there are still plenty of ragtime fans. That's apparent at an annual festival named after the king of ragtime, Scott Joplin. The Scott Joplin International Ragtime Festival draws a big crowd in Sedalia, Missouri each year. Some of the most talented ragtime musicians from around the world perform at the annual event. Joplin lived in Sedalia at the height of his career in the turn of the 20th century. Ragtime music swept the nation in the early 1900s and remained popular for about 20 years, until the first jazz records were released.
It was composed for and performed by every conceivable kind of musical performer: military brass bands, banjo soloists, theater orchestras, and mostly for singers. It was the ragtime songs, not the piano solos, that were the most popular and most prevalent form of ragtime.
Beautiful demons, set your honey a dreaming, won't you play me some rag? Just change that classical nag to some sweet, beautiful drag. If you will play a copy of a tune that is choppy, you'll get all my applause. And that is simply because I want to listen to rag.
While ragtime nearly disappeared from the landscape of American music, it had a big resurgence when the movie The Sting was released in 1973. The next year, the first festival honoring Scott Joplin was held in Sedalia.
Scott Joplin had moved here in the mid-1890s and started writing, and I guess he'd already been a little prolific in some of his writing, but he started writing his most prominent ragtime pieces when he was here in Sedalia. He played down at several different clubs. One was the Maple Leaf Club. It was an African American or a black club only. It was down by the railroad tracks. They weren't allowed to play anywhere else at the time.
In 1899, Joplin teamed up with publisher John Stark to release his most famous piece, Maple Leaf Rag. It's the earliest piece of instrumental music to sell 1 million copies in the United States.
It's the most important rag ever written. It gave structure and depth to the idiom. It has been constantly in print without interruption since that day in 1899, when John Stark brought it out just a few blocks down the road from here.
Maple Leaf Rag and Joplin's other famous hit, The Entertainer, are often performed at the festival. Sedalia is clearly proud of its ties to Joplin. The 4-day festival draws several thousand people to town to hear nearly 50 different performers. Even those unfamiliar with ragtime can enjoy the lively, upbeat music.
Even with some younger people, this music has a really buoyant energy to it, and so it can even be interesting for young people who've never heard it because it's fun to watch. It's you can dance to it. It's just got a lot going for it.
Ragtime music is built on the concept of syncopated rhythms, when a performer stresses the weak beats instead of the strong beats. That melody in a piano player's right hand is accompanied by a march in the left hand.
Instead of light syncopation in the pianist's right hand, they built a melody line that was constantly syncopating all the time. Before the beat, after the beat, on the beat, off the beat, so that the juxtaposition of all these rhythmic accents coming at you every which way when set against the march rhythm, it created a sort of ragged time. Ragged time, ragtime.
Come on here, come on here. It's the best band in the land. You can hear people call like you never heard before. So that's your rule, that's your walk and your walk. That's just the bestest band around. Come on,
While ragtime music is the focus of the festival, Other styles of music are represented as well.
The thing I love about this festival is that there's so many different styles that people play here. And there are boogie-woogie pianists, stride pianists, ragtime pianists, people who write their own compositions, and they've all become friends over the years. So there's a lot of camaraderie here, and people are really supportive.
Stephanie Trick is a classically trained pianist who started playing when she was only 5 years old. As she got older, she developed an interest in both ragtime and another genre known as stride piano. While ragtime pieces are typically performed exactly as written, stride is a different style.
By the time the 20s rolled around, there were recordings that people could listen to. So the music became more of an art that was passed around orally, and people learned how to play songs by ear, listening to recordings. And then that kind of gave them more freedom to make their own versions of songs, to improvise on them, because they weren't locked into playing it one way from the sheet music.
Some performers pulled off other tricks as well, such as Donald and Baron Ryan, who traded spots on the piano bench in the middle of a song. Organizers say the younger performers are often popular with the audience.
Ragtime music draws in a lot of people. Some of the kids came and saw the performers and they really enjoyed it. And so it kind of inspired them to begin playing. And now these guys that are coming up, all these young ones, they're fantastic piano players. And a lot of the older piano players that have been around forever like to make the joke that they need to watch out for the younger kids because they're going to take their place any day now.
Tex Wyndham has performed at ragtime festivals around the country for more than 50 years. His first performance in Sedalia was in 1984, and he has been back several times since. Wyndham says the thrill of playing never gets old.
There's nothing like you walk out on stage and there's nothing out there but a microphone and a piano. And a half hour later or an hour later or whatever it is, you walk off stage and everybody is just cheering and having a good time. And I gotta tell you, that's the greatest high in the world. There's nothing like it.
Here, the performers are a tight-knit group, and they go out into the community, they go out and talk to the fans and talk to the people in the audience, and they develop a rapport, so they become friends. Ragtime is a very family and a family-friendly community. They get together, they play across the country with each other, and these fans travel to see them all over.
Scott Joplin died in 1917, at the same time that ragtime's popularity began fading. But it's obvious from the festival that ragtime still has plenty of fans. The biggest tribute to Joplin is that his music continues to be played and enjoyed by people of all ages.